Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Yesterday I did summary of everything which we have seen so that you have the whole picture. Today I will do summary of what we did yesterday. So what we need to do, even when you summarize yourself, you don't have to just recall what I said, you have to find the logical connections. Only then it will make sense. Otherwise just, this was said, this was said, this was said, but why it was said, in what sequence and how logically it develops a topic. This is something which makes a good summary, right? So I just am going to do that so that you just have an idea. But I haven't forgotten the question that I asked. So but I will do the summary, I will bring you to this question. And by the way, so many people came to me and trying to answer that question. So I'm really happy that people were thinking about it. So that's good. They took it very seriously. Yes, very seriously. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm very happy about it.
And not only that, they try to get feel if it's right or not.
Yes. And many of them came to me asking, what was my question? That's true. You need to understand the question to be able to answer. Otherwise, how will you answer? Oh, that's it. I'll spoil it very quickly. Because I'm a left-hander, so all my instincts are different. So when I try to open it, the whole thing comes out.
The cover should be closed immediately, otherwise it will get dry.
Otherwise it will get dry now. Okay, sure. So, what we saw is this whole big Brahman, that is the truth of the whole Jagat that we are talking about. What is the Upalabdhi Sthanam? Because it's not an object. So how do I get it, right? How can I understand this Brahman? It has to be, if it is a direct knowledge, it has to be available to me somehow, right? It's not available as an object. I can't objectify Brahman. There must be a way that it is available. So this is what we say, it is self-evident and self-revealing. If it is self-evident and if it is self-revealing, what's the problem? Why can't I just know this self-revealing and self-evident Atma? Why do I need pramana for it? This is also what Swami was asking, right? So if it's self-revealing, I should know it. So what happens is this self-revealing, self-evident reality, which is Atma, which is of the nature of awareness, kind of gets hidden in my understanding. Why? Because I take myself to be, this awareness is the content, but then there is this I sense, which is the function of my mind. So what happens is the content I sense is, the I sense seems reality, and the content, which is awareness, which is free from I sense and it is free from everything, is missed out. Okay? So how do I kind of distinguish this I sense from its content? I sense means I'm the knower, I'm doer, I'm experiencing this, all of this. That is what we call I sense. Okay. So how do I, now this seems to be reality, now how do I get to the content of each of these thoughts? So the Shastra reveals, but when Shastra reveals, there are 3 operations that I have to do. What? Shravana, manana and nididhyasana. What it means is, first I have to actually first understand what Shastra is trying to tell me about my true nature, because if my starting point is wrong, I'll never get it. Secondly, suppose I understand this is what Shastra wants to show me, that this content is the truth of the whole universe. It's not just one little thing hanging separate from the body, mind, or this I thought. So suppose I understand that, but it is not that easy to understand, because it's very hard to fathom that I'm the truth of the whole universe. You can kind of fathom, okay, I'm independent of the body, mind, sense complex, which is not a huge thing. Anyway, okay, so you create some distance between body, mind, sense complex and start living thinking I'm free. That's very small yet, right? But here what we are not talking about some entity which is hanging independent of body, mind, sense complex. What we have to understand is the fact that this entity, which is the content of my I sense, is the truth of the whole universe. That is a big understanding. So therefore, definitely I am going to have doubts. There is no way that I am going to understand it just immediately. So the doubts are of three types: your own doubts, doubts of others, and doubts of philosophers who thought about reality for a long time. The third is nididhyasana. Nididhyasana means again and again bring it to your mind, because the minute you open your eyes, you only see what? The jagat, which seems to be separate from you, and you as one entity. So you need to make your thinking processes see again and again the reality from the vision of Shastra. This is what we call contemplation. Okay, so the verses talked about this process. And after having, for example, with nididhyasana, as you begin to be advanced in nididhyasana, what are the things that you will recognize? The first thing that you will recognize is that this reality, that which is immediately available to me in form of and is mixed with my I sense, this reality is not only truth of the knower, it is the truth of the known and object of knowledge. Jnata, Jnanam and Neyam. So this is how, this is what is the conclusion. This is how you take it away from your individual. Otherwise you are obsessed trying to do something with it, and if your relationship with awareness only remains with reference to this little entity, and you are caught there for rest of your life. So this is why the verse tells you that as a result of this nididhyasana, what you actually begin to understand is that this content is actually content of everything, every form, including time and space. Okay, so this is what you recognize, and suppose as a result of these three operations, you recognize this. How would you recognize it? With vritti gnanam. And as we have seen earlier, if in one vritti, as a result of your increasing clarity, one vritti will totally remove the ignorance, and then the knowledge will be clear. When the knowledge is clear, then the text starts talking about what is the result of this knowledge. What do you get by this knowledge? So the first thing that it talks about is, it burns what? So first, in fact, it uses an imagery, as Surya was explaining. You rub, and then at one point fire is created. So that means rubbing is what, thinking about it, all these operations. And at one point fire of knowledge will take place, and that fire, what will it do? Without rubbing it cannot take place. But it's not called a fire until the fire comes. Do you understand? So this is what you have to understand. But when the fire comes, all what? It just as the fire burns everything, all the karmas are destroyed, burnt. Then what we did is talked about what kind of karma. Then we said, okay, karmas are of three types. Sanchita, which is collected over lifetime, that is burnt immediately. Why is it burnt immediately? Because there is a paradigm shift. Who does the karma? Karma requires a karta. And karta is at the level of, we have seen, Vijnanamaya. Vijnanamaya means there is a buddhi in you which makes decision. Please don't use these kind of terminology when you speak normally, because you need to understand what does it mean. Vijnanamaya does action, please. Otherwise, it's like totally out of place. So what you need to understand, what do we mean by this happens here? There is a buddhi in you, and that buddhi has a decision-making capacity. And through this buddhi's capacity, you make decisions. Okay? That's what is meant by this. Now, this entity seems real to us. As long as this entity, the buddhi, seems real to me and I make choices, then I am a doer and I enjoy the result of the action. But as a result of this knowledge, what has happened? I am the doer is understood to be mithya, this entity, the I sense. But the content awareness has no doership. And this is a fact. Awareness has never performed an action. So then you can say, if this is my true nature and I have never performed an action, then why am I having a karma account? Well, you don't know this reality. So you take yourself to be this individual and you have faculty of choice. And with that you perform an action and you accrue the result. So as long as you are within avidya and adhyasa, you are subject to karma. That's why we are trying to remove avidya, which will make us what? Burn all this karma instantaneously. So that means this karma gets immediately burnt once the knowledge takes place. Why? Because knowledge instantly makes you non-doer. But this is why, until the knowledge takes place, suppose you start telling yourself, I'm not the doer, awareness is not the doer, you'll create a huge confusion because you are still within avidya and you're pretending you are outside just because you have heard it. That will be counterproductive. So I have to keep re-emphasizing, don't use Vedanta and don't preempt things and don't start behaving as though you know the reality. And just tell yourself that I'm in the process of knowing the reality and I'm still subject to everything. And in fact, I need more punya in order to help me to discover this reality. Okay? So, this is what we say, that immediately all the karmas are gone. What kind of karma? Sanchita karma is gone. Then we saw prarabdha karma. The karmas which have already come into being, they will not go. Why? We gave an example that suppose there is a person who shoots an arrow, the person goes away, but the arrow will continue. Why? Because now it's already released. It's no longer the doer of, it doesn't require the doer anymore. Now what? The forces will take over and decide when that arrow falls and how far it goes. Okay? So that means prarabdha karma continue and they themselves have three benefits, because imagine somebody tells you the minute knowledge takes place, you will be dead. Who would want this knowledge? Nobody would. So therefore you want to live, and that's okay. So you can, this body continues. What is the kind of, then you can say, well, everybody's bodies continue and your body also continues. So what is the difference? Everybody lives with ignorance, so they live with smallness. For you, that ignorance is gone once and for all. So therefore, few years are given to you to live with freedom. Total freedom, enjoying the vision for which you have worked so hard. Right? So that means this is the fruit that is given. Some few years of celebration with Ishvara's glory. So this is how the life becomes. Then the third thing which is very important, that the wise person actually becomes a link to continue the student-teacher linkage. Because unless the wise person survives, how will the lineage continue? Only the people who will survive are ignorant people. Then what kind of a lineage it will be? Lineage of ignorant people. So what happens to our suffering? It multiplies rather than reduces. So that's why you need wise people. So this is why gurus are considered, if the guru knows the reality. This is why we have these beautiful verses in our tradition. They come from this understanding. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guru Namah. This is beautiful. The first thing, it was interesting when I was listening to Swamiji and I was seeing what he knows, and it's just, I was so fascinated by what he knows. So one day I went and I really wanted to, I meant it, right? And I meant it and I said, Swamiji, now I understand the meaning of this shloka that I have been learning as a little kid. And you know what he told me? Because you know what this shloka is saying? Guru is Brahma and Guru is Vishnu and Guru is Maheshwara, Shiva. Guru Sakshat Parabrahma. Not only it is all these Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, but it is the final reality. Therefore, my pranams to the Guru. So when I said that to him, he was so matter of fact. He told me, Guru knows it and Shishya has to know it. That is so beautiful. Because it's not like I am some great Brahman and Ishvara and you are this lost Jiva. Not at all. See how he was so brilliant and he was so matter of fact that all these romantic ideas we have, this whole thing, oh yeah, Guru is some, that whole human drama which goes along with it, which has so many distortions, he actually remains totally to the fact. Guru knows it and the Shishya has to know it. Then you are empowered. It's not like some entity is always above you and you're always this small little lost soul who has to hold on to this big entity. That relationship has to go on. What is the role of a guru? To make you see you're also Brahma, you're also Vishnu, you're also Maheshwara and you're also Brahma. That is Guru's job. So that means this is the job that Guru does, and this is why prarabdha karma is required, because otherwise who will be the teacher? Agami karma. Agami karma is the karma that you have collected within this lifetime till the knowledge took place. So that karma, well, you can say either that this agami karma, what happens after the body goes, anyway they join the sanchit, so they are destroyed. Or in some text it is written that the people who study with that guru, the punya go to that those people who praise him, who study with him, and the papa go to people who criticize him. I mean, this is just something I don't know. Right. So this is what is said about agami karma. So now, when that happens, then what we call the just this life remains. And what have you released yourself from? The cycles of birth and death. Because what takes you to cycle of birth and death is not only this karta, that through this karta you have collected this karma account, and this karma account constantly keeps giving you different results. So this is gone. This is why we say there is freedom from cycle of birth and death. So please don't use the word samsara. What does it mean? Samsara doesn't mean anything. It means that everybody is caught in endless cycle of birth and death due to ignorance. The minute you remove your ignorance, what happens? All that is here is Ishvara. Samsara goes away. Why? Because you are no longer caught in endless cycle of birth. So you can't say this samsara. This is not samsara, this is Ishvara. You understand? Please don't use these words because they highlight your ignorance. This is just a word. Because you don't see the world as it is, therefore you are caught with your misconception. And that misconception, what does it do? It keeps you within the cycle of birth and death. So, this is Ishvara and this is Brahman. This is actually your ignorance actually makes you go through chakkars. So, now, the next question is, now this is where my question to you comes. Okay, so, now, next question is, why this person is going through prarabdha karma, the wise person has solved the problem of avidya and adhyasa completely. Avidya is ignorance. And adhyasa is what we call a superimposition which is caused by ignorance. So what kind of superimposition? I take my body to be Atma, and in the process Atma, the true nature of Atma is covered for me. This is called superimposition. Okay? Adhyasa. So now, when the adhyasa goes away and avidya goes away and the person is alive, so everybody is very curious, what is the life of this person? Does the person see things differently? Does the person see nothing at all? Or what is happening to this person? Right? The forms. So we have all these Puranas and all, they give all fantasy stories. So that gives us some image of who is this wise person. So this is why yesterday I did this thing, that when adhyasa is removed, and avidya is removed, avidya is the cause for adhyasa, perception, right? So there are some adhyasas, when they are removed, what happens? The perception changes. What is the example? When you correct the rope, the perception of snake will go away. Right? Suppose you mistake a rope for a snake, which is your adhyasa, superimposition. Then the minute you come to know that actually it is not snake but it is rope, what will happen? Now you will no longer see the snake, you will see what? The rope. So this is what we call nirupadika adhyasa. What it means is, after the ignorance goes, what happens? The perception changes. Perception changes from snake to rope. But there are some other adhyasas, when they are removed, what happens? The perception doesn't change. What is the case? Flat earth, rising sun in eastern sky. You can even include quantum physics. Quantum physics tells you that this given object which looks so tangible is nothing but atoms and particles. It doesn't mean your perception changes and you see mostly space and no tangible objects, right? Even that is what we call, your error goes that this is the final object, but your perception doesn't change. So this is quantum physics.
Blue sky.
Blue sky, so many things. Right? Now, my question to you was, now, what, you can't say, well, sometimes it is nirupadika and sometimes there is sopadika. And, well, I don't know why. In this case, it happens to be this. That is not the right answer. You have to find a pattern. What is a pattern? In which case there is order, there is intelligence in this creation. There is no randomness. Randomness means you have to find in which case the perception will change and in which case perception will not change. Don't go to Brahman right now in this world. When you find out in this world, then you have to extend, this is what we call extrapolation. Otherwise what will happen, everything you talk about Brahman, but if all the representations you find only in this world. So this is why what you want to show, what I mean is, what you want to show is the entire Jagat is Mithya and Brahman is Satyam. But do you start with that? You start with a simple pot and clay. Why? Because the same relationship which exists within pot and clay is also between the whole Jagat and Brahman. So this is why we start with these examples. So that means we understand that, hey, here there are two ways, but you first need to find in which case it is like this and in which case it is like that. Then when you have found in which case, that will help you to then extrapolate and say, in the case of Brahman, this is what it is. It will give you a reason. Otherwise, you are just randomly saying because Shastra says. So that was my question. Even question is hard to understand, then don't worry. Doesn't matter. Those who thought they understood the question and those who attempted to answer, they can give me their answer.
So I would imagine that when you don't have, when you have ignorance and you get knowledge, so then you have that nirupadika adhyasa. So that means you're able to identify between or differentiate between snake and the root. But when you have got the entire entitlement, so while you know the truth, so while we know that the earth is not flat or the sun rises from the east, where the earth is moving and not the sun. So we get to the perception we know and the reality we know. So we move to the supadika adhyasa. So that to me is going to be the profound knowledge. So you know the truth and you will have to sort of still kind of live in the world.
Okay, so you are going the other way. You are explaining. Okay, so now what is your answer? I can kind of I see what you mean. But it's not totally answering my question. But I see that you are trying to figure it out and it's good. It's good. Yeah.
So I think in the case of Nirupadika, the mix-up is existing in the mind. So,
Okay.
And it's resolved by the senses. So when you see the snake, then it's your senses that tell you, or someone reveals to you, actually it's a snake, but your senses confirm it. So you have direct knowledge. Then with Sopadika, the mix-up exists because of the limitation of our senses.
Superb.
We can't directly know that the earth moves and not the sun.
Excellent.
So we need direct knowledge or inference to reveal the truth, which is the natural order, Ishwar's laws. And our sense perception will not change because the mix-up is resolved at the level of knowledge.
Wow. Wow.
But also, it's not completely false to say that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, because that's still knowledge that's really useful if you're lost and you need to know where north is. So, whereas the snake knowledge is never useful. It's always going to lead to more confusion and illusion.
Wow. Excellent. Wow. Very good. Excellent. My God, I have really smart people. Okay, very, very good. Anybody else? Anything other than what she's saying? Please don't repeat and tell me 20 answers which are same repeating what you understood, what she's saying. So I don't want that.
I was just thinking, maybe it's the same to go from Pratipadika. You see exactly, this is my subjective Shristi. When I go to Vivaharika and I understand it's Ishvara Shristi, and I get the knowledge, this was a simple understanding for me.
Okay, excellent. That is also This is how generally I explain. So I think you have heard me. Here I hear me. This is what she has figured out. So this is good. Okay, both are very good. Very good, very good. Now this is not working. This is why we do 3 shantis. Adhyatmika, Adibhautika and
I think you might just need a little more muscle.
Just some water.
Or just a little more pressure.
yeah.
And the pen will not work.
Then the pen will not work.
Little water.
So you have taken Indresha's comment very seriously. One suggestion.
Now one thing that I have to say. See, I've been asking so many questions, but only one question had a reward. Which was that reward? I'll treat you. Who answered? Rashmi. She was quiet the whole time. When there was a reward, without incentive, she's not interested.
Freedom is not enough.
So that is exactly. Okay, what am I going to get? Lunch? Sure, I'll try to answer. This is called strategic interventions. Okay. So now, there is, what it means is, there is a pattern here. It's not just random, sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's like this. Every time it is that we have adhyasa, which is superimposition, which is your personal superimposition, which is what we call Jiva Srishti.
Srishti is creation.
Srishti is creation. That means it's your personal creation. So then what happens when you actually remove this adhyasa, you go back to Ishvara Srishti, which is Ishvara's creation. What does it mean? Snake that you see, what was the Ishvara Srishti?
It's a rope.
Rope. And your creation was what? Looking at this, you created snake. So when you removed this perception, you went back to Ishvara Srishti. You understand? You went back to what is, which is what Ishvara's creation is. But there are adhyasas which are taking place within Ishvara Srishti. Not only you, but everybody else has a perception of flat earth. Why? Because the eyes are designed in a way that this is what is available to the eye. Sun is rising in the eastern sky is not only your personal experience. This is how Ishvara Srishti is. This is what it appears for everyone. That means there is an intelligent order which makes our perception what everybody's perception. Then the third is what the object, any object is nothing but mostly space and all these small atoms and particles. Which are actually moving. So this is at the same time, what is your perception? It's a tangible object. Right? So this is Ishvara Srishti. It's not your personal Srishti. It's not your personal confusion. This is how Ishvara has set up. When you open your eyes, this is what it seems like. This is part of the Avarana Shakti of Ishvara. This gives this appearance. but you're also given the potential to correct and come to know what is. But when you correct what is, the Ishvara Srishti is not going to change, because this is the empirical reality. It's not going to change. This is not your personal perception. This is how everybody sees the world. So therefore, whenever you make any corrections within Ishvara Srishti, it is not your personal superimposition, then the perception doesn't change. So this is why a scientist, when he comes to know that all that is here is mostly space and atoms and particles, when his anniversary comes, he is not going to give his wife a stone, not precious stone, just some local stone ring, saying that gold and stone are atoms and particles. Right? Because the perception of gold still remains. At that level, there is a difference. Nobody is trying to deny the difference. Right? This is what we call Ishvara Srishti. Ishvara Srishti means you can't change it. This is the order of Ishvara. So, but within this order of Ishvara, there is a capacity to know the truth. There is an appearance, and then we are all given the capacity to know the truth. So, when we use the pramana and we come to know the reality, the world out there, all the objects, do they change? No. You, the person, with all your faculties, which faculty? Your faculty to think, your faculty to emote, your faculty, your even eye sense doesn't change. Otherwise, as I told you, if the wise person has no eye sense, what will the wise person do? I'm hungry and I'll feed you. That's not wise. Even your eye sense remains, but its truth is known to be. Everything remains as it is. Just like for a scientist, everything remains as it is. The world remains as it is. But what is happening is he knows much more than the eyes can read. It is not that the eyes see differently. This is what Turiya was trying to say. That was excellent, very nice, brilliant. As a result of re-understanding, your eyes are not going to see something different. But the ignorance, the eyes, the perception gave wrong conclusions. So what has happened? As a result of knowledge, the wrong conclusions go away. So whenever, what is the rule? The rule that I was looking for, which is what Carl said, because he has heard me before. Otherwise it's not easy to figure this out, right? Whenever it is but he remembers what I said. But he remembers what I said. Congratulations. Because many have heard it, but they don't remember. Okay, so Jiva Srishti. What is Jiva Srishti? It's your personal projection. When that is corrected, you come back to Ishvara Srishti. Because what is there in Ishvara Srishti is a rope. But when it is Ishvara Srishti, time, space and object, universe, this is Ishvara Srishti. When you correct the perception about that, even a given thing in that, the perception doesn't change. Right? So that means this is the possibility that is given, that there is an appearance like that, but you can, and that gives that conclusion. But what you can do is, with reasoning, as she said, with reasoning, what you can do is, you can actually take yourself to the truth without changing the perception. So in this case, now let's come to how do we use this for final knowledge. We still need to do that, right? We can't just say here, because this is a pattern that we have seen within the world. Now, so when we correct the error, which is, and we see Brahman and Ishvara everywhere, as a result of pramana. Right? We started with only forms. And this is what our eyes can see. What is this pramana doing? It's adding 2 more levels that our eyes cannot see. Right? It makes you see the presence of Ishvara that you otherwise can never objectify. And it also makes you see the presence of Brahman, which is self-revealing reality, which happens to be not only the truth of Ishvara but also of every form, because every form is pervaded by Ishvara, and wherever Ishvara is, its truth is also there. So when you correct this error, what kind of this form? Is it an Ishvara Srishti or your personal Srishti? Ishvara Srishti. This is why I say, please don't enter into some kind of a subjective reality. Oh, space is because I see it. Hey, no, there is an empiricality about the space. There is empirical space, there is empirical time. This is why we call Ishvara Lord of time and Lord of space. When I inquire into His truth, it disappears into this, but therefore I cannot say it's only my projection. It's not my projection. It is already there, and this is why scientists, knowing the distance, can send the rockets, and they have to be absolutely precise. So there was this mission, Indian mission, what was that now?
Chandrayaan.
Huh?
Chandrayaan 2.
Chandrayaan? Now?
Chandrayaan.
Chandrayaan?
Chandrayaan 2.
Chandrayaan 2. And it was supposed to reach where?
On moon.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And with last few seconds it lost
Right
its
now the
connection.
one which didn't go through and that...
Same. Chandrayaan 2.
So what it had to do is to land. And then it didn't, they lost
hard
contact.
landing.
Yeah.
They lost contact. So that means so much precision is required. So much understanding of the laws are required. The distance, the time it will take, the instruments that you make. It's not just your imagination, which makes, this is the whole big problem with, some of these spiritual things. It's all, everything is subjective. Nothing is, we have Ishvara. There is an empirical reality. But when you look into this empirical reality, it resolves into something else. So, here it is Ishvara. The form is not your personal imagination. Neither time is your personal imagination, nor space is your personal imagination. It's there. So that when you come to know Ishvara and Brahman, because this is Ishvara Srishti, what will happen? The perception will change or not? It will not change. Why? Because this rule is established here. Do you see how logically you have to arrive at why you are saying what you are saying? Otherwise, you are just saying and you are repeating what somebody else is saying and you don't quite know why. So we don't want that kind of superficial knowledge. We want reasoned out knowledge. Whatever, as I keep telling you, whatever is the relationship with reference to the final reality, everything exists here and now. So this is why it's actually solving this whole amazing puzzle of the world, because they're putting everything in order. So this is why, this is what we call sopadika adhyasa. Even after you remove avidya and adhyasa, the perception of forms will remain exactly as it is. Right? Because it's not your personal imagination, it is Ishvara Srishti. In every case, when there is Ishvara Srishti and you remove your adhyasa, then the perception doesn't change, only conclusions change. The conclusions that you had arrived at, earth is really flat, sun is really rising, those go away. Okay? Okay. 47. Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi Swatmani Eva Akhilam Sthitam Ekancha Sarvam Atmanam Ikshate Jnana Chakshusha. This is beautiful. Who wants to read? Who wants to read? Yeah, sorry.
The yogi with the complete knowledge sees the entire world resting in his own self and regards the entire world as one self through the eye of wisdom.
Wonderful. So that means, please don't think that his perception will change. Instead of seeing many, he will see only one. That's not what is said here. Why? Because it says Gnana Chakshusha. What is Gnana Chakshusha? Through the eye of knowledge. The eye of wisdom. So that means the perception will remain, but the perception will not fool the person to say that there are many. Right? The perception gives rise to confusion. So what will happen? The perception will remain as perception, but it will no longer lead to wrong conclusion. So then you can say, if there is only one, why do I see many? The wise person will be able to explain that. How will the wise person explain that? That reality, without undergoing any change, has a potential to manifest. That's why I see many. Clear. Do you understand? You don't need to twist realities and you don't need to try to prove, oh, I see only one, so I'm really, I'm Pahunch Gaya Mahatma, I have reached that place and you have to, it's not, none of this, that kind of a, so what? The appearance doesn't create reality. When appearance is understood as appearance. Okay? So that's what. Now.
Can I add just one?
Yes.
See, don't think that you need the third eye.
Yeah.
And then you need to focus on the third eye, which is here. And then only when this will be activated, and this will be the eye of wisdom, and you will have an amazing different vision of the world, that's all. Okay? I'm saying that because this is also floating around like anything. So here, Jnana Chakshu is what? It's not like a new physical eye will give you access to metaphysical, esoteric something. Just understand, in spite of the apparent division and multiplicity, which I continue to see, there is one. Undivided life, undivided consciousness.
Atma eva idam jagat sarvam atmanaha anyat na vidyate mrudaha yatvat ghatadini swatmanam sarvam ikshate. Who wants to read this? This is all the wise person and the vision of a wise person.
This entire universe is verily the Atma itself. There is nothing other than Atman. Just as pots etc. are only clay, so the wise sees everything as himself.
Okay, great. So that means the pots don't create duality. Why don't pots create duality? Because, huh? Yeah, exactly. So that means there is only one clay which is appearing as many pots. So you can enjoy the appearances, you can enjoy the differences, because each difference, each nama rupa actually adds variety to the whole creation. Nama rupa don't create duality. If nama rupa created duality, what will you have to do? You will have to destroy all the nama rupa. When will you go? You can't even go to moon properly. When will you go and destroy the galaxies and everything to see there is one? Do you understand? What we are trying to do itself is like God knows what. Yeah, on our own trip.
Serious kind. In order to the knowledge to stick.
So that means what the the forms don't create duality. Why? Because all forms have one content. And that content, without undergoing any change, as though appears as all these forms. So the forms don't create any problem for us. We don't need to, the mithya cannot touch satyam. Therefore, you don't need to mess with this. Now, forms themselves, what the nama rupa add what? Such an amazing variety to the universe. So you can see flowers, you can see insects, you can see the mountains, you can see river. So beautiful, right? And that means not only they have this, they add variety to the universe, but they each one have their unique functions. The sun sitting out there is not only beautiful to look at, is doing so many different things for you while being there. The trees are beautiful to look at, right? But at the same time, standing there, it is producing food for you. So that means Nama Rupa, this is why here we don't only call it Mithya, we call it Ishvara. Ishvara because there is a whole big organization there. You go into flower and you see the patterns and each one, stem and leaves and whatever, these petals and how it is, it's just incredible. So that means, and not only that, it has a function. So now they have all these, not only we think it has a function of giving nice fragrances, but it has, now people have flower remedies. There's Bach remedies and all flower remedies. So that means that they look like just some flowers, but they have function. So that means Nama Rupa is your glory. If you are not, you are not caught in your ignorance, Nama Rupa are meant for you to enjoy because they are Ishvara's creation and each one has a function. So it's wonderful. Life becomes celebration. So your life has to become celebration. Because when you see samsara, actually there is Ishvara. There are beautiful, this is what I say, this is not only in philosophical text so explained so analytically. This is in the culture. So what is the culture? So there are this Mirabai. Right? Mirabai, she is a saint. We call her saint. What does she do? She writes. She says, I thought that what Bhavasagar saban sukh gaya hai, jarura nahi mujhe tarana. I thought I had to cross this whole big ocean of samsara. It's so hard to cross. Try to cross Ganga. So many people drown. It's impossible to cross Ganga. Imagine you have to cross swimming the ocean. It's impossible. Now you have to cross the ocean of samsara, the cycles of birth and death. How will it was? It's impossible. So now she says, it sounded impossible. But now when I look into the nature of samsara, it is resolved in you, Ishvara. I don't need to cross anything because instead of samsara, I see only you. Beautiful. This is something this is why we call it's a spiritual culture. Spiritual culture because it is there in the Upanishads. It's there in Bhagavad Gita. It is extremely analytically talked about. But simple people, they understand this reality. They are not simple, they are connected. Narsi Mehta, jagi ne jo to jagat dise nahi. When I wake up from the ignorance, I don't see jagat, I see only you, Ishvara. So that means this is what this name and forms, they don't create any problem. Your ignorance creates a problem. They are embellishment of Ishvara. They are just Ishvara manifest through them. It's your not knowing the reality and taking forms to be real, then your one form becomes reality for you. You become infinitely small. That becomes a problem. So that means that this person understands that the forms don't create duality. So the person is able to enjoy the form without feeling small. 49. Jivan muktasyu tat vidwan purva upadhi gunan tyajet satchidanand rupatvat bhajet brahmara kitavat. Okay. Who wants to read? Sorry, I hear this Bhavet is written as Bhajet, so it's wrong. It's called Bhavet. Bhavet Brahmara. No? Yeah, there's a typo here.
It's Bhavet.
Yeah, it's Bhavet, not
In
Bhajet.
Devanagari.
In Devanagari there is a mistake, so don't worry. Okay, who will read? Stefan.
The liberated, while living individual endowed with knowledge gives up the attributes of his previous upadhis, since its original nature of Sat Chit Ananda, just like a worm becomes a wasp.
Okay. Now, what it means is that what was the definition of upadhi? That which, what is the definition of upadhi? That which lends, as though lends, right? Seemingly. As though lends its attribute to something else. And what is upahita? That which as though takes on the attribute. That which has though takes on. So what does it mean? The body, mind, senses, before the knowledge took place, as though lent their attribute to Brahman. So Brahman, instead of being this limitless, it appeared as what? Confined to body, mind, sense, complex. Right? After the knowledge takes place, what happens? All these attributes which belong to upadhi, the person clearly understands that they don't belong to Brahman. So that attribution goes away, right? This doesn't take on the attribute of body, mind, senses. This takes on because of your ignorance. What do you understand as a result of ignorance? Brahman is not from body, mind, sense complex, it's becoming Brahman. Brahman is always free from every condition of the body, mind, sense complex. So what is this verse saying? Upadhi dharmas no longer affect the wise person who knows that this is. For the other people who don't know the reality, this is superimposed on Brahman. For the wise person, that superimposition is gone once and for all. But they just remain, but they don't cover the nature of Atma. For everybody else, they are there, but they cover the nature of Atma. But for a wise person, they are there, but what do? They don't cover the nature of Atma. Because their attributes are never mistaken to be the attributes of. Okay? So the upadhi dharmas do not touch the wise person. Whereas for everybody else, upadhi dharmas become their own dharma. Therefore they are limited by that. Now, what is this example? Worm becomes wasp. Surya, can you explain?
Yeah. So you see how it is, the worm is like in a cocoon like, right? And then how does it become a wasp?
Metamorphosis.
Huh?
Metamorphosis.
But there is one particular process which is happening, is that this cocoon is binding the worm into this shell, right? And then what is happening is that as it is growing, it is like pricking into this cocoon. And it's only by giving up what is like binding him that he can free himself and become a wasp. So in the same manner, the individual who is like mistaking the attributes of the body and the mind and so on to be his own, by repeatedly growing and pricking into what is this binding him in his understanding, can free himself. This is the example. So it's very poetic, it's very nice imagery.
So the pricking is like that rubbing you with.
Yes, exactly, same idea.
Okay, and the rubbing and pricking is all with help of Shastra.
Yes.
If you try to do it on your own, you will reach somewhere else. So, 50. Tirtva mohat avarnam harva raga dveshadi rakshasa yogi shanti samayukta atma ramaha virajati.
After having crossed the ocean of delusion, killed the monsters of binding likes and dislikes, etc., the yogi becomes united with peace, his own true nature, and shines, dwelling in himself.
Atma Rama, some beautiful virajati, shanti samayukta. This whole search, this is what that Swamiji was saying, that we have taken countless births. And through these countless births, what we are really searching for is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. And every birth we didn't find it. And we didn't find it, and so that means it seems that the life was incomplete. Life is incomplete. Imagine you accomplish so many things, and one day you have to exit this earth and leave everything behind. You know, you go and watch a Bollywood movie, and somehow, what? Everybody wants the end. The end means what? Everything has to fall in its place. You can't have abrupt end. Suppose something ends abruptly. Nowadays, modern movies, they try to do that. Why? Because they say that's life. That's not life. Behind, nobody wants incompletion. But unfortunately, unless you have figured it out, it is incomplete. It's true, your life seems incomplete. All of a sudden you are among these people, somebody is your wife, your kids, this is your job, this is your home, and you are just out. What? Then? Why were you here? What were you doing in this countless flow of time for some 80, 90 years? All these activities, stress, everything, and then gone. Incompletion. So that means when you solve this greatest puzzle of life, what is there? There is a sense of completion. Sense of completion means Shanti. The mind is totally resolved. You have understood what is what. Right? And when you have understood what is what have you understood? I am limitless. It's not just what is what. And when you understand that I am limitless, you are enjoying in your own glory. Right? So that means this is all kinds of pretenses, all kind of, trying to show to the world how much all this just goes away like that. What is there to show to anybody? What is there to prove to anybody? That is all jiva, as Surya said. These are all needs of a jiva. The small person trying to become big. So this is where Surya in the morning meditation used a beautiful way of, our teacher used to say that. More and more Ishvara in you and less jiva. Jiva means your own needs, your own perceptions which are all skewed, your own dissatisfaction, your own isolation, your own struggles with yourself at every level. Or that your own zeal. I think yesterday said somebody, I think was it, I don't know who said it, that whole thing of, I want to know, this is still jiva, wanting to control everything. That jiva has to relax in Ishvara first. That's the first thing. You relax in Ishvara, and then through you, Ishvara will express itself. You become an instrument through which what? Things get done. It's another way of living life. This is what we call jivan. Whole terms of living changes. So, Atmaramaha. I am so full, I don't need any fullness from nothing increases my fullness. One's fullness.
And Rama, the word Rama.
Ramati.
Ramati, reveling, enjoying. Okay, so this is also the root of this word Rama that I chanted this morning. It's also that. Enjoy. Enjoying in what? In the vision of Ishvara, and also you being never separate and being essentially one with Ishvara. Can you imagine? Ram.
The next. Bahya anitya sukha asaktin hitva atma sukha nirvritaha ghatastaha deepavat swastaha swantaha eva prakashate. Okay, who wants to read?
After having renounced fleeting joys of the outer world, content with the fullness of himself, he shines within alone, as a lamp placed inside a jar, not losing sight of the vision of his nature.
Okay. So that means from that, suppose you really have understood, from that time, no matter what happens in this world, right? So many things can happen. Because world produces constantly situations all the time, external world as well as your own personal life. All the time something or the other, it keeps happening. So what happens? All of this, what does it do to you? Or what is your dependency on those things for your value? So that means, otherwise what happens, if this goes my way, then I'm happy. And if this doesn't go my way, then I'm unhappy. This is what we call dependency. Dependency means your well-being depends upon so many things happening exactly according to your plan. Now what has happened is you understand that there is a bigger plan. And your plans are good, but they have to be aligned to the bigger plan. Then it flows. That doesn't mean you don't make efforts. That doesn't mean you are, everything is Ishvara's order and I'm limitless. I want to tell one story, which is a lovely story. It's a nice story because it tells you how this wise person engages in the world without any superficial kind of, nothing affects me. This is all rubbish, they're all nothing, it's just pretense. So I want to, these are some of the things that I have learned from Swamiji, which I'll never forget. So Swamiji, we live in, we stayed, there's an ashram in Anekati, and we all studied. 3.5-year courses of Swamiji were taking place in Anekati. So he started a hospital about 2 kilometers from the ashram. And it was meant for the tribe because it's actually in the hills and there are a lot of small tribal villages. So small tribal villages, and he wanted to help them because there is one hospital but it is charging. So what he said is he'll start a free hospital. He'll give them, And Swamiji has a lot of people that he knows around the world. So everybody chipped in and they built a really nice state-of-the-art hospital. She has been there. Okay, the state-of-the-art hospital, really nice building, nice equipments, everybody donated. There's a lovely hospital there. Now, 1 year passed, hardly any villagers come to the hospital. So then, because he was so happy that he made this hospital for all these people and it will provide healthcare, people hardly came. Then, what he said is, then he tried to find out. Then there is the other hospital which is charging. But it's charging, then people are used to those doctors, so they don't want to change, so they don't come. So then Swamiji said, okay, now suppose they have some inertia that they don't want to move from one hospital to the other. Let me try something else, so that because he had good doctors, he had good equipments and everything he was providing free. So he says, okay, let me try something else. Let me try mobile van and let the villagers not come to the hospital. Let me go to them and treat them. So he invested in mobile van and he kind of used to send, to neighboring villages. And he used to send and hardly anybody came. Now, if there was a normal human being, right, or a pretending Swami, oh, I tried, but these ignorant people, they don't know anything about, they don't know my greatness. None of these things. So what is a problem solving mode? And it says, okay, or, oh my God, Ishvara is not with me. Now, problem solving mode. Okay, suppose that cure is taken care of by the other hospital. Let me try health education and prevention. So he started giving classes, hygiene, cleanliness, all of that for the villagers. So that means if the people are used to going to those doctors when they are sick, then he doesn't want to interfere. He tried his best. He doesn't. But what he can do is what? Preventive education, health education, which is a huge thing. So he started organizing training programs. Didn't work. Nobody came. Then what? Then he says, then what? People, all the people who are coming to him, they all have backache, sitting in the class, right? But or whatever, the people have all these, what he shifted, what changed, made it into Ayurveda hospital. Ayurveda hospital, he collaborated with one of the most ancient Ayurveda school in Coimbatore. Got one of the best doctors to head this hospital. And then he started this and now he has, it's full, right? It's always full, pretty much full. People come from around the world. This is what we call engaging in the world without taking on the loans. Not calling names to people, not self-pitying. The person is able to move freely. Move freely, doing what one needs to be done, what needs to do, without any loads or judgments, either about Ishvara or about yourself or about the people. This is what we call the person moves with freedom. Freedom means I can do so many things, and I even if it doesn't work, either I can give up, that's also fine, or I can find solutions. Everything is done, but without pressures. Pressures to prove something to anybody else. How can I as a guru fail? No such issues. This is all this small person wanting to be big. That is gone from the wise person. Small person trying to be big is a put-on. Big is big. In Bhagavad Gita, there is a beautiful verse. The wise person is equated to the ocean. Ocean, the waves come. Does it make ocean more full? No. The waves go. Does it make the ocean depleted? No. Ocean is always full. There is no wanting to be full or wanting to show everybody it is full. It is full in its own glory. This is a wise person. Because the puzzle of life is solved. The person is one with Ishvara and one with Brahman. So, this is what he says, that everything which is belonging to Upadhi, okay, the person is totally unmoved by it. This is
the next one.
It's the next one. Okay. So that means the renounce the fleeting joys of the outer world. So what does it mean? Any joy that you get from the world is from what? Coming together of seeker and sought for the time being, as we saw yesterday. Now the person has solved the problem. Why the person has solved the problem? The seeker and sought is for once and for all resolved. Until seeker and sought once and for all is resolved, we are dependent upon this seeker and sought resolution which leads to happiness. So this is why. What was the example that I was giving? Swamiji was a seeker of what? His seeking was not for himself, it is for providing healthcare to people. And he tried many things, but what happened? While he was trying, his fullness never got depleted. You try and you engage in the world, you try to find solutions. But in the process, if you yourself drown, that is the problem. Anything, all the interventions are done out of fullness. Because they are done out of fullness, your dependency on one thing to be satisfied to make you happy, that goes away. So this is the example. The next. Upadhi staha api tad dharmehi aliptaha vyomavat munihi sarva vit murnavat tishtati asaktaha vayuvat charet. They say, who wants to read? Yeah, Andrew.
Even though continuing to live with the upadhis and their attributes, the wise is unaffected by them like space. Though knowing everything, he may behave as an ignorant, move freely amidst people, like the wind moves from place to place.
So, what? While living with upadhis means what? The form is still there, the mind is still there, everything is still there. But what has happened is that their attributes, the upadhis, body, mind, sense complex, and their attributes, what the person understands that it doesn't affect me at all. And therefore, because who I am, that awareness which is in and through everything but free from everything. And therefore, what? There is no pretense. He moves freely amidst the people. All complexes go away. Even spiritual complexes go away. I want to appear spiritual. All these complexes go away. So therefore, what he's able to move freely amidst people, and this is also one example that I gave, that he does many things, and like the wind, so that means you flow with Ishvara's order. Life begins to flow. It ceases to be struggle. And it becomes expression of your joy and your fullness. So this is the person. This is the person. Upadhi vilayat Vishnu nirvishesha vishet munihi jale jalam viyat vyomni tejaha tejasi varyata. So up to now we talked about what we call, what is the person, how, because the prarabdha is still not gone, so the person is still alive. And the association, this is not a real association, but the body, mind, sense complex still remains. And the person is expressing one's fullness through this body, mind, sense complex. This is what we call Jivan Mukta. Who is Jivan Mukta? This is a present continuous. What is present continuous? It means while living, the person is free. This is past participle. So what is it? While living, the person is free. Why is the person? So that means while living, what does it imply? The body is still there, the mind is still there. That is called living, right? And the person is free. So that means the body and mind is actually not a limiting a thing for the wise person. It's through which the fullness gets expressed. This is why the wise person becomes the source of inspiration. This is where sometimes we used to see how free our teacher was, when he taught, he really enjoyed, he laughed at his own jokes, he is like completely, all these things that we have, all these complexes, everything gone. Are people looking at me, what will they think? All this is gone completely. And that becomes such a, really, I remember that when you see a person like that and you are like struggling in life and you say, hey, this person knows so much and is completely, and what freedom that person enjoys. And that's so inspiring. So inspiring to see a person. So that is something that we all like, because so much of our learning takes place by example. Because suppose many people ask me this question, oh, all these verses, is there a person like that? So what happens? It almost seems to the mind that it's impossible. So when you see somebody who lives like that, there is one thing that you can say, hey, this knowledge is possible. This knowledge is possible. And why is it possible? Because it's already you. So what we actually have to do is undo all these complexes that we have acquired over lifetimes because of our wrong understanding of who we are and what the world is. When the ignorance goes, you don't have to make an effort to be free. There is one person who's making an effort to be cheerful, the other one is naturally cheerful. The other one is making an effort to show that nothing affects me. The other person understands that Atma, nothing is affecting Atma. So he's not ashamed of crying. Why? Because while crying, the person understands that that activity is taking place where? In the mind. And I am untouched by it. This is why all our scriptures are brilliant. How are they brilliant? Because we have Rama, for example, Ramayana. In Ramayana, Rama is presented as Avatara. Who is an Avatara? The one who comes with this knowledge. Who is a Jiva who comes with ignorance? Who is an Avatara who comes with this knowledge, but takes a form to intervene in the world and put something in place. That is called Avatara. So now, Rama is an Avatara. So how, when Sita is kidnapped, Rama is crying. And it is so moving. I read Ramayana. He goes and he asks the birds, he asks the trees, have you seen my Sita? Have you seen my Sita? He's what? Crying doesn't make him small. Showing his love for somebody doesn't make him small. Then when his brother in the war, there was some the arrow which shot him, and he was then there was this Sanjeevani. So Hanuman went, and he was sobbing. So that means there is one person who's pretending to be this, the other one is so free that from freedom emotions also flow. And that flow of emotion doesn't make you small. That is called real freedom. Otherwise you are constantly like this, still a ninja. So this is something that the wise person is. What everything while living, what happens? The person is enjoying life, and the whole thing is expression of one's fullness. Then what we call Videha Mukti. What is Videha Mukti? After this body, mind, sense go away, then that's yet another thing. What does it mean? Prarabdha karma is exhausted now. The karmas which gave birth to that individual, they are no longer there. Then what happens to that person? So there is, did you understand? There is one thing which is Jivan Mukti. So that means you have solved the problem of ignorance and adhyasa. But your body and mind is still there because your prarabdha is there. And how do you live in this world? That is this verses. The other verse is what this next verse is about after having understood and when the prarabdha is over. This body, what has brought, the karmas which has brought this body about, they are over. Then the person, like every other person, has to drop this body, right? You can't. So the person drops the body, then what happens to that person? The next one. Maybe I will stop now because I am very much under control now. So I figured it out. I have, we are at 53. So I have to do up to 56 today, and then I have only 10 more. I'll be fine. I'll finish tomorrow. Okay. Now, what I want to do is, I'll stop and I'll do the prayer.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate